Now, this morning on your breakfast programme, we're discussing claims that there's a culture of secrecy and cover-ups here in Jersey. You'll know that this week there were plans for a committee of inquiry announced into historic abuse. But is Jersey sufficiently independent to investigate itself? I'm going to be speaking to a leading Liberal Democrat MP about that issue later on in the programme. Do you believe that Jersey has a culture of secrecy and cover-up? We've already heard from some bloggers and critics of the state who believe that there is political pressure to stop things coming out and that the professional media is part of that, of which of course, the BBC would be included. And we'll discuss those concerns in just a moment or two with the editor of the BBC here in Jersey. But first, we've been asking you to get in touch with us this morning, and Claire Peters has been looking at some of your comments.
Retro Barber's been in touch on Facebook to say, about time we had this debate. We all know there's so much of this going on. The only thing is, though, if you put these corrupt people in prison for it, there won't be anyone left to run Jersey.
Steve on Facebook, and you can get in touch at facebook.com/BBC Jersey. Jersey's States Chambers has always hidden secrets from the islanders. Don't vote the same numbers in time and time again, and then you'll get change. Vote for a new generation of people who are willing to fight for you, to give you your island back to us. United we stand, says Steve on Facebook.
And Wally emailed Radio Jersey at bbc.co.uk to say what Stuart Sivray, who was on the programme just after 7 o'clock this morning, has been saying is very true. Wally thinks that cover-ups are part of Jersey's ruling classes.
Mick in St Helier has been in touch. He says, I tried to report abuse when I was at Hotel Garen, but was told to go away. Then during the historic abuse inquiry, I was again told by the police that I didn't live at Hotel Garen. I know where I live, so there's evidence of the police lying there, says Mick.
And James has been in touch to say Sivray blames everything apart from himself.
Hope for Jersey is the name on Twitter. Yes, Jersey has a huge culture of secrecy and cover-ups. No proper rule of law, no openness in camera debates, and the oppression of dissent, says Hope for Jersey.
And Michael gave us a ring on 720-255 from First Tower. He says, as a parent, I think it's disgusting, and child abuse is one of the worst things that can ever happen. The people that didn't ask questions about child abuse, they're just as guilty as those who were actually abusers.
I'd like to hear from you this morning. Do you believe there's a culture of secrecy and cover-up here in Jersey? If you do, give us a ring on 720-255, or you can join the debate on Facebook and Twitter, as so many have been doing. Well, earlier I spoke to the former Health Minister and former Senator Stuart Sivray. He's a critic of Jersey's political system. He told me on this programme, if you're not part of the so-called establishment, then you're an enemy of the state.
When you're trying to combat any kind of power in Jersey, when you go up against any entrenched interest, be it in public administration or any other field, there is no check and balance that you can turn to defend you. We don't have an independent judiciary. There isn't a lawful, proper prosecution function in Jersey. It's deeply politicised and conflicted. The police force only investigate crimes that the establishment want them to investigate. So ordinary people, especially if they're challenging the system, are powerless, worse than powerless, in fact. The rest of the system unites to oppress them.
Former Senator Stuart Sivray. Now, next year, an official public inquiry will look into how Jersey's care system has failed children in the past and what can be done to make sure it doesn't happen again. Ministers have set out what they hope the Committee of Inquiry into Historic Abuse will investigate, its terms of reference, if you like. But it's set against a backdrop of distrust in some quarters, which we've been hearing this morning, over Jersey's political system and, indeed, the media that serves this island. Earlier, we heard from the political commentators Stuart Sivray and Rico Sorda on what they consider to be a culture of secrecy and cover-ups, and we'll hear more in just a moment or two from others who are involved in so-called citizens' media. And they believe that the professional media plays a huge part in covering up stories. Well, to answer some of those concerns, I'm joined this morning by BBC Radio Jersey's managing editor, Jon Gripton. We also invited representatives from the Jersey Evening Post and Channel Television to join the debate, but both politely declined. Jon Gripton, is it right that there is a feeling in this island that the so-called paid-for media, the professional media, is covering up stories?
Good morning, Matthew. I think you are right to say that, or to ask that. There is certainly, in communication with me regularly, a section of the society here that does believe that.
They believe that, but is there any evidence to prove that their beliefs are true?
I think, as we heard in the previous hour of your programme, there certainly was an era where mistakes were made. As you know, and some of our audience know, I've been here in position for a couple of years, and I think so far I haven't seen evidence of that type of culture existing now.
Right, given that there has been no evidence of that culture existing now, have you found evidence of that culture existing previously in the BBC or indeed elsewhere in the media in Jersey?
No, I mean, let's be clear. Our role here, and I suppose when you question me, by implication, you mean our news team here. We regularly investigate all sorts of allegations that we receive, and people send me and our journalists documents and tip-offs and emails with allegations that we regularly investigate. We continually look at allegations that surface about the whole historic abuse inquiry, about the suspension and the handling of the former police chief, about events that did or did not go on at Hotel La Garenne and others, about the invitation of celebrities to the island and who was behind that and what did they do or not do when they were here. I mean, that is the day-to-day of our job. Are we investigating? Yes. Have I experienced any pressure to cover up or not to report? No. Our work continues. Let me give you one example. I received an allegation a couple of weeks ago about your programme, that while your programme was on air, we were getting almost a running commentary or calls of interference from the states telling us which items to drop, in the next section of the programme. That just simply does not happen. I have had, in my 2 years here, no interference from the judiciary, from the states, from civil servants, from the police. That just simply does not happen, and we would not allow it to happen.
There will be those who say that you get interference from the bloggers, that they're trying to set their agenda through the airwaves of the BBC.
Well, I mean, all of our audience, and indeed our non-audience, are entitled to give me an opinion on what we're broadcasting, on what stories they think we should be covering. And they have a point. And if somebody comes to me, I've said this endlessly, if somebody comes to me as a journalist, not as the manager of a radio station and a television station, but as a journalist, which is what I am, I will investigate, and I will continue to do so.
Rico Sorda and Stuart Sivry have both said this morning that you are in possession of documents that they have given to you that have not been broadcast. Why are you holding back the reports that are into the suspension of Graham Power in particular that you have been sent?
I don't give a running commentary on the journalism that I'm doing or that my journalists are doing. And as a journalist, I don't reveal sources, and I don't reveal documents that I have or do not have that are helping me do my work.
Do you have those documents that they say you have?
I don't talk about my journalism. I don't provide a running commentary on my journalism. Whether I have documents or not, I don't reveal that. What I can say is whenever I've been given information by any individual in the island, I've used it, I've read it, I've investigated it, or I've passed it on to others to investigate. Documents that I do have in my possession have been used to further our journalism, and the individuals that we've heard about or from in your programme this morning, including Mr. Power, including Mr. Harper, who was getting in touch with you earlier, we are in regular dialogue with them. They've all been on our programmes, they've all been interviewed, they've all given us their evidence.
We've been speaking to Deputy Montfort Tadier from St Brelard, and we asked him what he thought about claims that the accredited professional media, people like the JEP, Channel Television, Channel 103, and of course the BBC, do they really fulfil a role in Jersey any longer? And we asked him, can they be trusted?
I think people are becoming more aware of propaganda and agendas, and clearly, as individuals, politicians, or even the media, especially the commercial media, who primarily get their money from advertising, they have to be key that they don't want to be putting off any of their potential advertisers. The BBC presumably doesn't have that problem because it's sponsored essentially by the licence fee. But certainly I think it's valid to ask questions whenever you're reading, whether it's a blog, an online newspaper, or watching a news TV programme. Anywhere you have to ask what are the motivations behind it, who's written it, and I think people are becoming more aware to the effects of spin and potential propaganda, and so it can only be a healthy thing that they're perhaps foraging more for their information rather than just being spoon-fed it.
Deputy Montfort Tadier there from St Brelard. Jon Gripton, the managing editor of the BBC in Jersey. Some would argue that since you've arrived that you cancelled talkback and you removed the daily phone-in, you're actually stifling free speech in Jersey, and that interface between politicians and listeners has gone.
What I've done actually is open the airwaves and said that the whole of our output should be open to be discussing issues. It should be open to our audience to be engaging with us. So at any point, if we report on or talk about something that our audience want to engage with us on, they can. If they want to suggest to us a topic to discuss or to investigate, we will. The phone-in that you mention wasn't a proper piece of journalism. It was becoming almost a programme of entertainment to the island, and I thought we could do something better than that.
We heard earlier from Rico Sorda, who is a blogger, and also Senator Ian Lamarcon, the Minister for Home Affairs, and we asked them about their role and indeed whether they felt that there was still a role for the accredited media, as they like to say, the professional media.
I have a go at the media from time to time. I mean, JP headlines are quite extraordinary on a regular basis. Yeah. But actually, this is not a bias issue. I'm afraid it's a competence issue. Our reporters are rushed in producing stuff. There's very little serious political analysis at any level, I'm afraid to say, and that's just how it is. And obviously we continue to work with.
Even the media shouldn't be afraid of scrutiny, though. You can't get all defensive in that, because it's you've had Graham Power's 62,000 word statement for a year and a half, and we haven't seen anything of that. Maybe Mr. Gripton will explain that later.
Well, Jon Gripton is here. He's the managing editor of BBC Radio Jersey. Reporters are rushed and incompetent.
I'm very proud of the journalism that the BBC does. Yes, at times, we're the same as any other organisation. At times, people are off sick, are away on training and courses and development. Of course, there are times when we can't do as much of the digging and the legwork as I might like. But then there are other times when we can. Monday night, BBC One, next week, a double-length investigative feature on Jimmy Savile in Jersey and links to Haute de la Garenne, a piece of journalism that's currently in production. Just to pick up on Mr. Sorda's comments about a document that I either have or don't have, as I've said, information that I have received has helped our journalism. It has led us down journalistic paths. It has informed our interviews with Mr. Power, with Mr. Harper, and will continue to do so. And to pick up on the comment from the Home Affairs Minister, yes, I'm aware that some of our political analysis hasn't been as robust recently as it could have been, which is why we're introducing a new hour on a Sunday morning the week after this, where we will aim to do that and will better scrutinise political decisions in the island.
Neil is in St Clement. Good morning, Neil.
Yeah, morning, gentlemen. A few points there that just come up just about the talkback and the phone-in. Again, we're going on to the BBC's agenda, aren't we? Because you can only phone up and talk about whatever the BBC wants you to talk about. So that is stifling debate, for sure, and setting agendas. Matthew, you asked Senator Lamarcon earlier, did the Met interim report say this? Because we've got to remember, Andrew Lewis said it was damning. It was, scathing against Denny Harper. But the Met interim report, which was sent to Mr. Gripton through Operation Tumour, said there was no the criticism of Lenny Harper or Operation Rectangle. So you've got that answer, because that was sent to you. All these, again, I don't know if it's been explained yet why the JEP haven't turned up, because as far as I remember, this was all supposed to be, because the Jersey Evening Post, they put out this stuff saying, oh, bloggers, what is it they said? Allegations without substance and all the rest of it. But once more, as the JEP are just making their own agenda.
Well, the JEP aren't here to answer their issues, so we did invite them. You can address that with them directly.
Yeah.
What point would you like to make this morning, given that you're here on air on BBC Radio Jersey?
Well, in fact, just on that point, Matthew, sorry, on that point, you have the Jersey Evening Post on there every single day of the week. Not only every single day of the week, you have the Jersey Evening Post on there more Sundays on the paper review than not, so that the JEP get plenty of time, plenty of free advertising, and there's been many occasions where they've insulted blogs and the rest of it, where the truth is the blogs, the majority of blogs, produce evidence, documented evidence and facts. Not only that, this stuff is leaked to bloggers. It's not leaked to the Jersey Evening Post. It's not leaked to the BBC. It's not leaked to Channel Television. It's leaked to bloggers. Bloggers are trusted in Jersey more than the mainstream media. And I'd like to hear, because Mr. Gripton's ducked and dived, and you've allowed him to duck and dive the question about Graham Power's 62,000-word statement to Wiltshire. Now, the BBC published and broadcast the prosecution case against Graham Power. Why has Jon Gripton not fulfilled his obligation and his charter and published some of the defence case of Graham Power? Let's have it out. The BBC are not trusted, Matthew. That's the truth of it.
In your opinion, the BBC are not trusted. Thank you, Neil. Jon Gripton, you have held back the defence case.
We've reported repeatedly on the defence case. We've interviewed and spoken to many of the people named in the document that Mr. Sivray has published on his blog, documents that we have or don't have. We're not some sort of publishing house library for documents. We don't have that isn't our duty. We've got documents in our possession. We've probably got many of the documents that Neil refers to,
so you don't
and they inform our journalism.
You don't accept the idea that people only leak to the bloggers, then?
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't recognise that statement. And just to be clear, Neil repeatedly, he's a repeated voice on this programme and others. He has the airwaves open to him to come on and talk to us, and I'm very happy for that to continue. Equally, he's a very strong voice who says people like him don't get a voice. I don't quite see how the two go together.
Neil McMurray, thank you very much indeed for your call, and you're always welcome to call on 720-255. Jon Gripton, the managing editor of BBC Radio Jersey, will stay with us here until the end of the programme. Very shortly, I'm going to be joined by Mike Dunn, another citizen journalist, and also Stays member and blogger, Deputy Trevor Pittman.
Breakfast on BBC.